Mula sa kabisera ng Inglaterra, sa puso ng Britanya, London, UK. London, UK. Ito ang Channel Philippines Network, Pinoy Radio UK. Pinoy Radio UK. Sumasahing papawid 24 oras. 24 oras. Buong linggo. Sa www.pinoyradiouk.com. Ang mga pinakapaborito mga awitin, mga pinakaabangang programa, at mga sariwang balita at impormasyon mula at para sa mga kababayang Pilipino sa UK at sa buong mundo. Pinoy Radio UK. Pinoy Radio UK.
Good evening sa mga kababayan natin. Welcome back to Legal Advice Corner. Welcome back from a long weekend dito sa UK, from Holy Week dyan sa Holy Week naman sa buong mundo, di ba? So I hope you had a restful break, ano man ang ginawa nyo, whether religious, whether you had little time, some time with the family, or chill lang. Welcome back sa usual programming. Although solo flight po muna tayo, ako muna ang magmo-monologue ngayon dahil Mr. LARAGAN will be joining us next week ulit. So ngayon lang ako magmo-monologue again. We haven't done this in a while, kaya meron tayong slightly shorter version today. But we don't want to miss it, kaya pinatuloy pa rin natin yung show. Although we would go straight into the topic, nandun pa rin tayo sa series natin na Truth or Myth. But today we will be talking about or guessing truth or myth sa residential tenancies in the UK. So, if this is your first time to tune into Legal Advice Corner, meron po kaming sort of a quiz, sort of a game. Get a piece of paper, get your notes. I will state 10 sentences, 10 statements, and you will try to guess kung totoo ba to, o haka-haka lang, o mga sabi-sabi lang na hindi naman totoo. And later on, I will explain bakit totoo, or kung hindi totoo, ano ba ang dapat o accurate na sinasabi ng batas. So, it's quite fun. And it's been going on for a while, itong Truth or Myth natin. Last week, it was Truth or Real, dahil meron tayong mga episodes. We looked at episodes kung makatotohanan ba ang mga pinakikita nila sa mga series. So if you haven't watched that, please do. But for today's topic, it is Truth or Myth, residential tenancies lang po. Dito po yan sa UK. So we'll probably pause for a break. As I've said, this is just a mini version of Legal Advice Corner dahil ako lang po ngayon ang kasama nyo. But sana mag-enjoy pa rin kayo at sana makadagdag pa rin ng kaalaman. So we'll see you in about two minutes after 2-minute break, and then we'll crack on. So get your piece of paper, get your pen, at handa na po kayo sa ating weekly quiz na Truth or Myth.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, serbisyong mapagkakatiwalaan, serbisyong maaasahan pagdating sa inyong mga padalang balikbayan boxes. Dito ka na sa Forex Cargo. Sa presyong kayang-kaya ng bulsa, sigurado ka pa sa inyong padala. Forex Cargo. Dahil kailangan makarating. Call 0208-813-7064. O ano pang inaantay niyo mga kabayan? Tayo na sa Forex Cargo.
100% all natural. Tasty. Healthy. Versatile. 4 unique flavors. Taste a real sauce. Galetos.
May problema ka ba sa landlord mo? Baka AV ka na ni Kuya. May problema sa mga kapitbahay, sa trabaho. O kaya naman kay Mister o kay Mrs. Away tungkol sa mala, mga may utang, mga aksidente, daing o laban sa ospital or sa NHS. Harassment? O baka naman may stalker ka na gusto mong ireklamo? Punta na sa DV Solicitors para matulungan ka pagdating sa mga litigations at iba pang mga legal concerns. DV Solicitors at 2nd floor, Howard House, St. John Street, Bedford, MK42 0DJ. Tumawag sa 01234-350-244 or 01234-225-188 o kaya naman mag-email sa d.quinto@dvsolicitors.com. Visit our website at www.dvsolicitors.com.
Mula sa kabisera ng Inglaterra, sa puso ng Britanya, London, UK. London, UK. Ito ang Channel Philippines Network. Pinoy Radio, UK. Pinoy Radio, UK. Sumasahing papawid 24 oras. 24 oras. Buong linggo. Sa www.pinoyradiouk.com. Ang mga pinakapaborito mga awitin, mga pinakaabangang programa, at mga sariwang balita at impormasyon mula at para sa mga kababayang Pilipino sa UK at sa buong mundo. Pinoy Radio UK. Pinoy Radio UK.
Welcome back to the show. As I've said, solo flight po tayo ngayon. Kaya mini legal advice corner lang yung gagawin natin. But still, we have our quiz. We have our truth or myth, which is our weekly 10 statements na huhulaan nyo. And then I will give the answer later on. So prepare your pen and paper because we will be starting straight away. Truth or myth about residential tenancies dito sa UK. So statement number 1. If I'm a landlord in the UK, I can change the locks if my tenant is not paying rent. So pag hindi nagbayad ang aking tenant ng renta niya, pwede kong palitan yung lock o pwede ko siyang i-lock out. Is that true? Or truth ba yan? Or myth? So that's statement number 1. Statement number 2, if I'm a landlord in the UK, I need to put the tenant's deposit in a government-approved tenancy deposit scheme and I need to provide the tenant with information about where I put it and what I'm proposing to deduct in due course from the deposit. So, sa Pilipino, pag ikaw ay landlord dito sa UK, kailangan pala na yung deposito, yung rent deposit na ibibigay sa iyo ng tenant, kailangan mo daw i-enroll yan sa isang government-approved tenancy deposit scheme. At hindi lang yan, kailangan mo pang bigyan ng impormasyon ang tenant mo kung saan mo nilagay, kung ano yung tenancy deposit scheme na yan. So, truth ba yan or myth? Number 3, a tenancy a residential tenancy cannot be a verbal agreement. So pag verbal agreement, hindi yan nag-exist. Hindi pwede yan. A tenancy cannot be made verbally. Is that truth or myth? Number 4, if the landlord fails to protect the deposit o ilagay dun sa tenancy deposit scheme, then the landlord can be sued for a penalty, and that penalty can be up to 3 times the deposit. So pag ikaw landlord at hindi mo nalagay yung deposit sa na protect ang deposit, ay pwede kang maging liable. May penalty ka daw na up to 3 times the deposit. Totoo ba yan o hindi? Truth or myth? If you're just tuning in, andito pa rin po tayo sa segment series natin. It's been running for about 2 months. Legal Advice Corner has been running for, I think, nearly 3 years. But ito pong segment na to, bagong segment to na 2 months, na truth or myth. So, I say a statement and you should guess kung totoo ba yan o haka-haka lang. Truth or myth. Number 5 na po tayo. If I am only a guarantor to the rent, the landlord will not come after me if the tenant has failed to pay the rent. Kung guarantor ako, guarantor lang naman ako, hindi ako hahabulin ng landlord pag hindi nagbayad ng renta ang tenant. Number 6, the landlord needs to update the gas safety certificate every year. Yung gas safety certificate daw na yan, kailangan i-update ng landlord every year. Number 7, the landlord does not have any right of access to the property once the tenancy has started. So the landlord does not have any right of access at all once the tenancy has started. So hindi na pwede talagang pumasok yung landlord mo sa property at all at any point in time kung nag-umpisa na ang tenancy. Number 8, the landlord can seek possession of the property even if the tenant has no fault. So kahit ikaw ang pinakamabuti, mabait na tenant, pwede pa rin mag-start ng possession proceedings ang landlord mo. Allowed daw ba yan ng law? Yan ang statement. Is that true? Or is that a truth or myth? Number 9, the landlord is not obligated to maintain the heating, showering facilities, and structural facilities of the property. Walang obligasyon ang landlord mo na ayusin niya mga shower facilities, heating, structure ng bahay mo. Truth or myth? That's number 9. And number 10, the landlord may deduct from the deposit any damages that the tenant has caused to the property. So, pwedeng i-deduct ng landlord mo kung ikaw ay tenant. Kung sinira mo yung bahay na yan, pwede daw i-deduct yan sa deposito mo. Right, that's number 10, truth or myth. Again, this is our usual mechanics every week. 10 statements, hulaan nyo po, truth ba yan or myth? And we've been doing this kasi tatlong taon na tayong nag-legal advice corner. So, we're testing kung natatandaan ba. And in some ways, mas madali kasing maalala ng tao pag sinabi mo, ay, oo nga, sabi niya truth yun, or sabi nila myth lang pala yun, ha lang pala, narinig ko lang pala sa pub yun, hindi pala totoo yun. So, I'll repeat very quickly yung 10 statements, and you can check yung answers mo, truth or myth, and then I will give mamaya kung ano yung mga sagot. Number 1, if I'm a landlord in the UK, I can change the locks if the tenant is not paying. Pwede mo ba yung pwede daw tanggalin or palitan ng mga ang susi, ang lock pag hindi nagbayad ng renta ang tenant mo. Truth or myth? Number 2, if I'm a landlord in the UK, I need to put the deposit in a government-approved tenancy deposit scheme, and I need to provide the tenant with information relating to that tenancy deposit scheme. So, kailangan ko palang ilagay ang tenancy deposit na yan sa isang government-approved na tenancy deposit scheme. At di lang yan, kailangan ko pang ibigay yung impormasyon. Kung nasan ba yan, dun sa tenant. Number 3, a tenancy cannot be made verbally. Kailangan in writing. So, a tenancy, hindi daw pwede yan made verbally. Number 4, if the landlord failed to protect the deposit, then he will be sued or he can be sued and he will be liable for a penalty kung siya ay kakasuhan, he will be liable for a penalty up to 3 times the deposit. Number 5, kung guarantor lang ako, hindi naman ako hahabulin, guarantor ng tenant, hindi naman hahabulin kung hindi nagbayad ang tenant ng renta. Especially quite true kung ano ba mga sitwasyon niya, yung mga anak na nagre-renta sa university, kadalasan ng mga parents ang pinapasay ng guarantor. So, ano ba yun? Sabi dito, hindi naman nahabulin. Sa unang ano lang yon, na guarantor ka lang. Yun daw ang sabi niyan. Truth ba yan o myth? Hindi ka daw hahabulin pag hindi nagbayad ng renta ang tenant. Number 6, the landlord needs to update the gas safety certificate every year. So, meron kami dito sa United Kingdom, gas safety certificate. Sabi dito sa statement na to, the landlord needs to update the gas safety certificate every year. Number 7, the landlord does not have any right of access at all to the property once the tenancy is started. Wala nang karapatan ng landlord mag-access ng property once nagumpisa na yung tenancy na yan. Number 8, the landlord can seek possession of the property kahit walang kasalanan ang tenant. That's number 8, truth or myth. Number 9, the landlord is not obligated to maintain the heating, showering facilities, and structural integrity of the property. Walang obligasyon ng landlord daw na mag-maintain ng heating, showering facilities, and structural integrity ng property na yan. And finally, number 10, the landlord may deduct from the deposit any damages that the tenant has caused during the tenancy. So, end of the tenancy, pwede daw yan i-deduct ng landlord kung may mga nasira ang tenants. Right, ready? Exchange papers. Yung sumakatabi nyo dyan sa bahay nyo, and we will check your answers. And I will provide a little bit of information para may background naman tayo. Number 1, if I'm a landlord in the UK, I can change the locks if the tenant is not paying rent. That is a myth. Bawal po yan. Kahit hindi pa nagbabayad ng ilang buwan yan, bawal po yan. Kakasuhan kayo ng harassment. Yan. And it's pretty strict here in the UK. Malakas po actually ang mga karapatan ng mga tenants dito sa UK. At pag hindi nagbayad, you have to start proceedings against them. So, in order to get them out, in order to stop the tenancy, to terminate the tenancy, kailangan nyo pong magkumuha ng possession order from the court. So, don't change the locks. Okay? Myth. Number 2, if I'm a landlord in the UK, I need to put the deposit in a government-approved tenancy deposit scheme, and I need to provide the tenant with information relating to that tenancy deposit scheme. Yes, that is correct. That is true. And hindi lang yan, you have to do it, I think, within 28 days or 30 days, within a certain period of time after receiving the deposit. So, kung ikaw ang landlord, straight away, ilagay nyo na sa tenancy, government-approved tenancy deposit scheme. And you have to, hindi lang po yan, dalawa yan, ha? Kailangan mong bigyan ng prescribed information. So, bibigyan ka ng leaflet o bibigyan ka ng mga information pack, certificate, di lang yung certificate, but also prescribed information relating to ano bang balak mo i-deduct, ano bang, asan ba yung tenancy deposit scheme na yan, ano ba yung mga references. So, you have to provide the tenant with those information. Number 3, a tenancy cannot be made verbally. That is a myth, actually. Although as lawyers, hindi po namin recommended yan. A tenancy can be made verbally still. But if you're a landlord, and even if you're a tenant, mas recommended, mas klaro, mas pareho kayong secured if it's in writing. So myth doesn't have to, but must prefer na in writing talaga. If you're just tuning in, we're still in Truth or Myth, Residential Tenancies. Nandito na po kami sa answer portion. Number 4. If a landlord fails to protect deposit in a government-approved tenancy deposit scheme, he can be penalized for up to 3 times the deposit. That is true. Actually, pag ikaw ay nahuli, kinasuhan ka ng tenant mo dahil nalaman hindi mo pala pinrotektahan yung deposito, walang magagawa ang korte kundi talagang bigyan ka ng penalty. And it could be 1 times the deposit or 3 times the deposit. So kung 1,000 yan, pwede maging 3,000 ang penalty mo. It's very, very strict. It's a well-settled area of law. Hindi mo pwedeng sabihin nakalimutan mo. If there's something, this is something that you really need to remember kung landlord ka. Protektahan ng deposito dahil kung hindi, it could be a very costly penalty later. Number 5. If I'm only a guarantor, kumari anak mo sa university, di ba, na mga tenant sila, 10 tenant yan, tapos guarantor ka. They will not come after me if the tenant has failed to pay the rent. Myth! Kahit hindi mo pa anak yung hindi nagbayad ng renta, pwede kang habulin. So be very, very careful if you are signing as a guarantor. Dahil kung hindi nagbayad ng renta yan, ikaw ang unang kasuhan yan. So just bear that in mind. Number 6, the landlord needs to update the gas safety certificate every year. That is true. Meron po kami dito sa UK, just because of the health and safety standards dito sa UK, if you have a gas appliance, syempre kung wala po kayong gas, not applicable po sa inyo. If you have gas appliances, kailangan po yan chine-check every year. Meron po kami tinatawag gas safety certificate. So they have to produce that certificate every year. Number 8, the landlord does not have any right of access at all once the property once the tenancy has started. So bawal nang papasukin yung landlord. That is not quite right. That is a myth. Dahil if you look at most, if not all, tenancy agreement, merong right of access ang landlord. A number of things. Minsan, obviously, to do yung gas safety certificate. Sometimes also just a general landlord's inspection. So meron yan sila. Obviously, they would have to ask they would have to give you a reasonable notice. Minsan nakalagay doon kung ano yung reasonable notice. Most of the landlords are quite fine. They'll give you, available ka ba dyan? Some people would like to be there. Some people, wala naman pakialam. Sige, bahala ka dyan, pasok ka. But they do still have right, and most of the time, andyan po yan sa tenancy agreement nyo. Baka, if you're wondering, bakit yung landlord ko, every year pumupunta siya dito. But, kung every week naman, iba naman yun. So, hindi naman pwede na sobrang na i-interrupt ang inyong tenancy. Normally, it's just to do general checks annually. So, yun ang right nila. Basahin niyo po yan sa tenancy agreement nyo under landlord's access. Normally, andun po siya. Number 8, landlord can seek possession of the property even if the tenant has no fault. That is true. It's called the Section 21 process. So, if you're given enough notice, which is about 2 months, kahit ikaw pa ang pinaka-mabait, pinaka-santo, at napaka-on-time magbayad, the landlord can still seek possession. Pwede ka pa rin nilang magbigay ng notice period. Basta na-follow nila yung procedure. So that's true. Number 9, the landlord is not obligated to maintain the heating, showering facilities, and structural integrity of the property. That is a myth. So landlord actually, under the law, sa batas, and you will also see that sa tenancy agreement nyo, meron silang mga obligations to maintain the property, especially heating, showering facilities, boiler. Yan ang normally nagkakaroon ng problema, especially sa winter dito sa United Kingdom. So, what you need to do if you are a tenant, syempre, hindi naman pwedeng hulaan lang ng landlord kung nasira yung facilities nyo. You have to give notice to the landlord. And mas mabuti kung notice na yan, may paper trail. So WhatsApp messages, text messages, messenger messages, notifying the landlord of any issues at home. Obligasyon din po ng tenant yan para hindi po din lumala ang problema at hindi magkaroon ng mas malaking danyos, kumbaga, yung bahay. So, very, very important for tenant to report any issues to the landlord. The landlord would then have to remedy that. So, normal na mga, yung mga malaking problem, structure, mga damp, mga hindi gumagana yung boiler, hindi gumagana yung heating, tubig, hindi gumagana, you have to report that. And then they have to sort it out within a reasonable period of time. The 9 is a myth. Okay? Number 10, the landlord may deduct from the deposit any damages that the tenant has caused to the property. That is true. So yung mga down to tenant's use of the property, medyo nasira mo yung door, nasira mo yung normal is kung may mga kids and they had crayons. They drew on the white wall like this. So yan, mga ganun. Pwede pong i-charge sa inyo yan when you're exiting. Checkout ang tawag. So parang hotel lang. With checkout inventory. So doon, pwedeng mag-deduct ang landlord sa inyong deposit. So that's true. Right, we'll go through it very, very quickly once again. Again, this is mini legal advice corner dahil ako lang po today. But I don't want to miss you too much. Kasi nami-miss ko po kayo pag hindi tayo nagkikita every week. So very quickly, truth or myth? It is a myth that landlord in the UK can change the locks if the tenant is not paying. It is true that a landlord needs to put the deposit in a government-approved tenancy deposit scheme, and they need to provide tenants with information relating to the deposit tenancy deposit scheme that they use. It is a myth that a tenancy can only be made verbally. It is true that if a landlord fails to protect the deposit, pwede siyang magkaroon ng penalty if the landlord is being sued by the tenant later on. Actually, hindi lang the court will actually make a judgment against the landlord in that case. It could be up to 3 times the deposit. It is a myth na just because you're a guarantor ka lang, hindi ka hahabulin pag hindi nagbayad ng renta yung tenant. Especially ito sa university at 10 sila magkakaibigan. O 5 normally. 5 kids, 4 kids. Lahat sila andon, pangalan nila. And then ikaw yung pinakamabait, ikaw yung mabait na magulang na nagbigay ng sabi mo, sige, guarantor ninyo. Kahit pa ang hindi nagbayad doon, yung hindi mo anak, pwede ka pa rin habulin ng landlord. True that the landlord needs to update the gas safety certificate every year. So every year po yan. It is a myth that the landlord does not have any right of access at all after the tenancy started. So meron pa rin, pwede pa rin po silang bumalik, as we said earlier. Normally to do landlord's inspection, katulad ng gas safety, at to do maintenance. It is true that the landlord can seek possession of the property even if the tenant has no fault at all. So we call that Section 21 notice. And it is a myth that the landlord is not obligated to maintain the heating, showering, structural integrity of the property, so they have to maintain that. And it's true that the landlord can deduct from your deposit any damages that the tenant has caused to the property. So those are the 10 statements this week. I don't know how you did. Sana valedictorian, sana perfect score, but we'll look at greetings very briefly before we say goodbye. As I've said, this is a mini version of the legal advice corner dahil si Mr. Laragan ay today may absent lang. na late lang, pero he'll be back next week. Right, we'll go right into hindi ko na Marian Galicia Panero is our first honor. Valedictorian sa ating mga greetings. Hello po, magandang gabi po, Kuya Sonny. Although, yeah, we can wave Mr. Laragan wherever he is. And Attorney Dana at sa lahat, happy Tuesday po, and stay healthy and stay safe always. God bless us. Well, God bless you too, Marian. Sana sana ano na din dyan sa inyo, no? Maganda na rin yung weather, although dito on and off eh. Rudy Lebrojo, masayang gabi ng Tuesday. Magandang attorney Dana, Sir Slim Sonny, Cutie Snooki, Super Sir Edgar, and lovely Directora, and all happy viewers. God bless us all from Team Lebrojo. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you, and happy Easter sa inyong lahat po. Rudy, kamusta? Kamusta ba dyan? Weather? GJ Alamparo is here. Good evening, Attorney Donna and Kuya Sonny. Happy Tuesday, all viewers, and also Direct Paula and Snooki. Have a nice evening. Oh, they're with us in spirit. Si Snooki at si Mr. Laragan. Sino pa ba yan? Logroño Rowena, hi po from Surigao, London po ako, Westminster. Wow, Westminster, right smack in the middle of London. Yes, go for it, Direct. Ayun na ba? Ayan pa, andyan pa si Ana Lu. Amazing Tuesday evening, everyone. Bubulol na ako. Attorney Dana, Kuya Sonny, Direct Pao, and to all viewers, God bless everyone. God bless you too, Ando. Si Ana Lu nagpalit na ng profile picture. Ayan, si Edgardo, ating roving reporter at ating YouTuber. Happy Tuesday and Easter to Mr. Laragan, Attorney Dana, and hardworking Direct Pao, and to the viewers in Tel Aviv, Israel now. We're in Jerusalem since Good Friday. Fantastic. We went to where the Mount Golgotha, where Jesus was crucified. It's very busy in the old city of Jerusalem. Since the Jewish, yes, are also celebrating Passover, and the Muslims are in Ramadan. Looking forward to lots of learning again today. Thanks, Egay the guy. Well, that's amazing. Egay the guy is in Tel Aviv. So, Mazel Tov, as the Jewish would say. I have very, very good Jewish friends. And yes, Passover sa kanila, and our Muslim brothers and sisters are also doing Ramadan. Si Tita Coral. Hello, Sir Sonny, Attorney Dana, Direct Paula, at sa lahat. Masayang gabi. Love you all. Love you, Tita. Si Tita andito na sa UK, Ayan. Leslie Hakaban, good evening po, Attorney Dana, Sir Sonny, and Direct Paula. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday din, Leslie. Daming bumalik, daming present sa roll call. Ayun. Well, thank you, everyone. As I've said, Mr. Laragan and Snooki will be joining us next week ulit. But thank you, Direct Pao, for making this happen. Maraming salamat. And sana nakadagdag kami sa kaalaman nyo, at sana naging masaya o naging reflective ang inyong Easter break. And welcome back again to the usual programming. If you want to contact us or contact me regarding a particular case, kung meron kayong query, kung merong case or meron kayong kailangan i-clarify, you can call me or you can email me at donna.quinto@dbsolicitors.com or 012342251188. If we can't answer the call, what we normally do is book you in for a free 30-minute consultation. So, yun ang normal. So, pag hindi na nasagot agad, email lang para ma-schedule kung kailan kayo free at kailan din tayo free. But anyway, thank you so much sa lahat, sa audience participation. Thank you, Direct Pao. Thank you, Snooki, Sir Sonny, for still being with us in spirit. And to everyone, we'll see you again next week. And have a good and happy evening. Happy Tuesday to everyone. Good night, people. Have a good evening.